The rain-slicked streets of Seattle gleamed under the sodium glow of street lamps as I slammed my fist into the hood of my beat-up Ford, the dent echoing like a gunshot in the empty parking lot. "You think you can just ghost me after 5 years?" I screamed into the phone, my voice cracking like thunder. But the line was dead. Josh had hung up, probably already tangled in someone else's sheets. In that moment, as the downpour soaked me to the bone, I realized I wasn't just losing a boyfriend. I was losing the map to my own damn life. That's when he appeared, like a shadow peeling off the alley wall. A guy with rain-dripping blonde curls and eyes sharp as switchblades, leaning against a motorcycle that looked like it had seen better days on the Pacific Coast Highway. "Rough night," he called out, his voice cutting through the storm with that easy West Coast drawl, like he owned the chaos. Before I could tell him to fuck off, he tossed me a helmet, grinning like we'd been buddies since birth. "Hop on. Adventure's calling, and it ain't waiting for pity parties." I should have walked away. Hell, I should have run. But something in his reckless spark ignited the fuse I'd buried under layers of safe routines and unrequited promises. His name was Brandon, he said, as we tore out of the city that night, the engine roaring like a beast unchained. We didn't talk much at first, just the wind whipping our faces, the blur of evergreens giving way to the open ribbon of I-90 eastward. He'd pulled up next to me at that gas station dive bar where I drowned my breakup in cheap IPAs, buying me a shot of whiskey with a wink that said, "I see you, stranger." By dawn, we'd crossed the Washington border into Idaho, and I was laughing for the first time in months, the kind of laugh that hurts your ribs because it's been starved too long. Brandon was a force, all restless energy and half-told stories. He was from somewhere in the California sprawl. Maybe LA, maybe nowhere at all. And he lived for the road, chasing sunsets and ghost towns like they were ex-lovers he couldn't quit. "Life's too short for cubicles and commitments," he'd say, his hand brushing mine as he passed the thermos of black coffee during our first pit stop at a roadside diner in Spokane. His touch lingered, electric, and I felt seen in a way Josh never managed. With Josh, it had been all polite compromises. Sunday brunches at the same cafe, Netflix queues curated by committee. Brandon? He was wildfire, unpredictable, consuming, the kind of guy who made you question if you'd ever really lived. We aimed for the heartland, a zigzag quest across America's bruised underbelly, from the potato fields of Idaho to the badlands of South Dakota. Where the earth cracked open like old wounds, Brandon lured me deeper with promises of hidden vistas and forgotten diners serving pie that tasted like freedom. Nights blurred into campfire confessions under star-pricked skies. He'd strum his beat-up guitar, voice gravelly and low, singing Springsteen covers that twisted my gut with their ache for open roads and unbroken promises. One evening, parked on the edge of the Badlands, the horizon bleeding orange into purple, he turned to me, his face half-lit by the dying fire. "Caden," he said, my name rolling off his tongue like a secret. "You got walls higher than these cliffs. What's got you so scared?" I spilled it then. The safe job at the tech firm I'd hated since day one. The family back in Seattle who loved me, but couldn't fathom why their golden boy preferred men over the picket fence dream. And Josh? God, Josh. The betrayal that wasn't even dramatic, just a slow fade into indifference, like I'd become background noise in my own life. Brandon listened, really listened, his green eyes steady as he traced a finger along my jaw. When he kissed me, it was soft at first, tentative, like testing the current of a river before diving in. Then deeper, hungrier, his hands framing my face as if I were the only map worth following. In his arms, wrapped in the scratchy wool of his sleeping bag, I felt alive, raw, exposed, but gloriously so. For the first time, I wondered if love could be an adventure, not a settlement. But adventures have teeth. We hit the jackpot in Wyoming, or so I thought. A tip from a grizzled rancher at a truck stop about an abandoned ghost town tucked in the Bighorn Mountains. "Gold rush relics?" the old-timer rasped. "And whispers of buried treasure if you're fool enough to dig." Brandon's eyes lit up like a kid spotting fireworks. And before I knew it, we were bouncing up a rutted dirt road in my borrowed Jeep, supplies rattling in the back. The town was a skeleton. Weathered saloons leaning like drunks, rusted swing sets creaking in the wind. We spent days there, mapping old mine shafts by flashlight, laughing as we unearthed rusted cans and faded photographs of stern-faced miners. It felt like us, piecing together fragments of a forgotten past, building something new from the bones. That's when the conflict cracked open, sharp as a fault line. One night, as thunder grumbled over the peaks, I found Brandon hunched over his phone in the Jeep, face illuminated by a glow that wasn't firelight. He was wiring money, thousands, from an account I didn't recognize, his fingers flying across the screen with an urgency that chilled me. "Who's that for?" I asked, trying to keep my voice light, but it came out jagged. He startled, shoving the phone away. "Just an old debt. Family stuff. Nothing you need to worry about." But his eyes darted, evasive, and the kiss he planted on my forehead felt like deflection. The next morning, over scorched eggs cooked on a camp stove, he confessed pieces. A shady ex-partner in California who'd roped him into a scam, flipping foreclosed properties with falsified docs. Brandon had bolted when it went south, but the fallout lingered, collectors hounding him across state lines. "I didn't want to drag you into my mess," he murmured, cupping my hand. "You're the first real thing I've had in years." I wanted to believe him. God, I did. We pressed on, the lure of the road pulling us south toward the Grand Canyon, that yawning scar in the Arizona earth. Romance bloomed in stolen moments. His head on my shoulder as we watched bison thunder across plains in Yellowstone. My fingers interlaced with his during a midnight hike where coyotes howled like lost souls. He made me brave, pushing me to cliff jump into icy streams, to voice dreams I'd shelved like old yearbooks. Quitting my job, writing that novel about a queer kid navigating the Northwest's rainy grit. "Trust yourself, Caden," he'd whisper, his breath warm against my neck. "The world's big enough for your story. But trust is a fragile bridge, and betrayal snapped it clean." It happened on the canyon's rim, that fateful afternoon when the sky turned bruise black and the wind howled like a banshee. We'd hiked the bright Angel Trail, sweat-soaked and exhilarated, the Colorado River a turquoise vein far below. At the overlook, with the storm brewing, Brandon dropped the bomb. "I need you to hold this," he said, pressing a duffel into my arms. Heavy, zipped tight, just for a day, till I sort the last transfer. My stomach plummeted. Transfer? Like the money? "Brandon, what the hell is in here?" I unzipped it, heart hammering, and found stacks of cash. Crisp, banded, the kind that screams trouble. Not relics from a ghost town, but laundered bills from his ex's scheme. He'd been using me as cover, our adventure a smokescreen to fence it across state lines, anonymous ATMs and burner cards hidden in his pack. "You lied?" I choked out, the words tasting like bile as rain lashed our faces. "All of it. The stories, the nights. It was just a con?" His face crumpled, rain mingling with tears. "No, Caden, God no. You're real. This started as escape, but you changed it. I was gonna come clean, wire it back, start over with you." But his voice cracked and I saw the flicker, the same evasion from Wyoming. He'd planned to vanish after the drop-off in Flagstaff, leaving me with a ghost of a man who'd promised the stars. The climax hit like lightning. I shoved the bag at him, backing toward the cliff's edge, the void yawning behind me. "I trusted you. After Josh gutted me, I let you in, and you turned me into your patsy." Thunder boomed, shaking the rock, and he lunged forward, grabbing my arm. We teetered there, the storm's fury mirroring the gale in my chest. Love warring with rage, hope drowning in deceit. "Let go," I yelled, but part of me clung, terrified of the fall, literal and otherwise. In that suspended horror, faces inches apart, slick with rain and regret, he whispered, "I'm sorry. I was scared too. Of losing you before I even had you." I wrenched free, stumbling back, the world tilting. But I didn't fall. Instead, I stood, rain pounding, canyon roaring, and chose myself. "You don't get to lure me into your chaos and call it love," I said, voice steady for the first time. "I came for adventure, but I'm walking away with me." I turned, hiking back up the trail alone, each step a declaration. Courage wasn't blind faith in others. It was the gut twist of walking into the storm solo. The aftermath was a blur of Greyhound buses and payphone calls to a bewildered sister in Seattle. Brandon texted once. A raw apology. Coordinates to the duffel he ditched in a canyonside bush. Cash untouched. I didn't report him. That wasn't my fight. Instead, I holed up in a cheap Flagstaff motel, scribbling pages of that novel, words flowing like the river below. Weeks later, back home, I quit the job, traded the Ford for a one-way ticket to Portland, new city, new start. The manuscript sold to a small press, queer voices thriving in the indie scene, and in its pages, I wove our story. Not as tragedy, but as the forge that tempered my spine. I saw Brandon once more a year on at a dive bar in Eugene during a reading tour. He looked smaller, lines etched deeper, nursing a beer alone. Our eyes met across the smoke-hazed room, and he raised his glass, silent toast, no words needed. I nodded back, then turned to the mic, reading the line where the stranger fades into the horizon, leaving the hero to chase his own dawn. Betrayal had scarred me, but it birthed trust. In my instincts, in the end, it's not the falls that define us, but the climbs we choose after. And damn if that doesn't feel like the truest American dream. Flawed, fierce, and utterly our own.